Hi, I'm Szippl, coming to you live from the Equity Trust Studios. We have a special guest with us today, Janine Firpo. Janine helps women feel good about their financial decisions and aligns their investments with their values. Janine, welcome to the studio.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on your show, May. I really appreciate it.
I'm very happy that you're with us. Just to kind of jump right into things, Janine, tell me a little bit about yourself and your book, Activate Your Money, Invest to Grow Your Wealth, and Build a Better World.
So this is something in this book, I teach women how to think about investing all of their money from their cash, their fixed income, their stock, their private investments, their real estate, everything they own in alignment with their values. And I do that because it's something I've been doing with my own money for about 10 years. And the backstory on that is really based on a pivotal moment I had in my own career. I started my career in the 1980s, early 1980s, in the technology industry in the Silicon Valley, and I was having great fun. I worked at Apple Computer in the 80s. I was really enjoying the industry, but I was also a huge traveler. And in 1995, I quit a job. I was a vice president of a startup. I quit that job and I did a 4.5-month solo backpacking trip through sub-Saharan Africa.
Wow.
And on the trip, I saw poverty like I'd never seen it before. And I came back from that trip just as the internet was taking off. And although I was well positioned to be part of that ride, I had made a decision in Africa to switch my career and figure out a way that I could live my values and work my values. And so that led me to then a 20+ year career in international development, where I applied technology and business thinking to solve poverty and other social challenges in developing countries. And that was also an amazing career. But because of that career, I was a social entrepreneur before there was such a thing. And I was involved in a lot of the conversations about what became known as impact investing. And I realized at one point, I made this huge shift in my career and I took pay cuts to do something that I thought was meaningful. And I realized my money was invested in ways that was actually working against me. It was undermining the work that I was doing on a day-to-day basis based on what it was invested in. And I made a decision in that moment of realization to invest all of my money with my values. And this book came out of that.
Wonderful. So Janine, can you explain the importance of values-aligned investing and why it is so important for women?
Well, what I think, there's two real reasons. So the reason that I started, and I think this is important to women, as I mentioned earlier, is that I wanted my money to be in line with my values. I wanted to feel good personally about what my money was supporting. And I think that this is a really important thing for women as well. In fact, Morgan Stanley has done a study and they found that 84% of women and 95% of millennials want to invest their money in ways that are meaningful and valuable to them. So there's something about investing this way that brings more meaning to our money, and it brings our money into integrity with ourselves. So I think the first piece is very personal. The second piece is that women are poised, according to a study by McKinsey & Company, to control the majority of money in this country by the year 2030. So collectively, we have tremendous power. Where we choose to put our money matters because power flows where money goes. And so if we start moving our money into the kinds of things that matter to us as women, like our communities, supporting other women, products and services that are actually designed for us in mind, rather than being designed for men and then put a pink label on it to make it work for us, then we will see more value put on those things as well. So I think there's both a personal and a collective importance related to investing our money in a thoughtful, conscious manner.
Wonderful. So can you tell me very quickly, why do you think women undermine themselves versus men?
There's actually a long history that answers that question. Unfortunately, we are told that we're not good investors and we're not taught to how to be investors. So if you look at articles that are written for women about their money, 90% of them tell us to be savers. And we're really good at that. We actually outsave men. The problem is that we put 70 cents on the dollar in cash. So when we do that, we're actually losing money year on year because our cash doesn't even keep up with inflation. And then a lot of articles actually scare us about investing. So 65% of articles written for women tell us that investing is really difficult and that we shouldn't really do it. And we listen to that too. So only 9% of us believe that we would be better investors than men, even though research shows that when we do invest, we outperform men by as much as 1.8%. But if
Wow.
you look at articles written for men, 73% tell them how to invest and grow their wealth. So we're getting very different messages than men do, and we're taking those messages to heart. And those messages are harming us, and they're making us not think that we're competent investors. And we are.
So we're saving in the piggy bank and we're not saving for the future.
We're not growing our wealth, right? So that's the problem, is we're saving in the piggy bank, as you suggest, but that does not actually grow our wealth. And we need to grow our wealth because we outlive men. We have a shorter career span and a longer lifespan than men. And most of us are going to end up single at some point in our lives, either because
That's
we
true.
wait longer to get married, or we end up divorced or widowed. And a lot of women, when they end up in that situation, haven't got a clue what to do with their money or how their money is invested. And then they're dependent on somebody else to help them handle that for them. Not a place that you want to be.
You know, I can really, really speak volumes to what you're saying to me right now, Janine. You know, I myself am a single woman, and it just so happened a few years ago. And I do catch myself thinking, what am I going to do in the future? Where's my retirement? How am I saving? And yes, I have some money in that piggy bank, but you know, just recently, just a few months ago, I actually decided I need to start looking at my investment options. So I think this is extremely powerful for everyone, not just yourself, not just for me. And so I appreciate you being here with us to really educate us on a lot of this stuff.
Well, thank you. And I'm glad that you spoke up and said this. You are absolutely not alone. I've seen women who have had 75% of their money in cash for decades. And I weep internally at the amount of money that got left on the table as a result.
Yeah, I'm just kind of shoving it underneath my mattress right now. Okay, let's move on a little bit. What are the dynamics around the women who currently invest?
So when you talk about the dynamics, I imagine you're asking me, how do they invest, or in what form do they invest, or what motivates them to invest? Yes?
Yes, outside of that piggy bank.
So what I'm finding is that women, particularly young women, are starting to realize that this is really important. And so they're looking for information that can help them be successful. And the information that's out there is limited, what I have found. A lot of the information that we see focuses on the stock market only. And we're also taught to invest more like men invest. So when you think about the stock market, my experience is that men tend to invest in individual stocks, whereas women tend to invest in funds. We don't necessarily want to invest the same way that men do. And so when you do see women investing, we're making different choices in how we invest. One of the areas that we're not as informed about is private investing. So we hear a lot about angel investing or venture capital, but we don't really think that that is for us. And that's actually a shame. I'd love to see more women thinking about investing in private deals as well.
And why do you think we feel that these aren't the investment choices for us as women?
Because again, we're not taught about this. I mean, I've met young women who tell me their fathers taught their brothers how to invest, but they didn't tell the girls how to invest. So this is just something we're not really taught about. And we think it's a big, scary, difficult to do thing, and it's not. It's a skill like anything else, and it's a skill that we can learn, and it's a skill that we can excel at. The private investing space in particular isn't really discussed because it's more risky. It takes more time to be a smart investor in the private investment space, and it's riskier than it is to invest in the stock market, for example, or at least in many people's minds, it's riskier. And so we're told that we should invest in cash, fixed income, which is bonds, and the stock market. And that's all we're told. And for some people, that's fine. But some women really love doing the private deals. I love it. I am a private investor. I really enjoy that part of my portfolio, and I put a relatively small percentage of my portfolio in that kind of thing. But we're not told about it at all. And I think it's time for that to change too.
So as women learn about these other investment choices and educate themselves, what do you think that's going to do to change the world for, the investments that the women are doing?
So when you talk about private investing, I think one of the reasons it's really important for women is because female CEOs and female entrepreneurs are having a really hard time getting capital. So if you look at all the venture capital that was invested in the last year, only 2.3% went to female CEOs.
Wow.
2.3%. And if you want to think about people of color, go smaller, way smaller. So the VC world is basically a white male game right now. And that is a result of both implicit and explicit bias. Some of it is really unconscious. So, and people are trying to change. But if we really want to see women succeed as entrepreneurs, then we need to help them and we need to put our money behind them as females. One of the ways that we can help female CEOs too is with our cash. So when you think about where your savings and checking account is, if it's in a big bank, you have to kind of wonder what they're doing with your money. And the thing many of us don't realize is that every single dollar we have is invested somewhere. Even our savings and checking accounts are investments of a sort, and that money is being used for some purpose. So the question is, what purpose? So I have personally shifted all of my money out of large banks and put it in local community banks. And I know that that money is now fully insured, just like it was in the large bank. I have better customer service than I did at the large bank. And I get regular updates about how my money is being used to provide support to female entrepreneurs, loans to female entrepreneurs, as well as how it's being used to support people who are marginalized or underserved by traditional banks. So I'm helping poorer people get home loans, school loans, car loans, the things that they need to survive and thrive. So there are many ways that we as women can use different buckets of our money to support other women and to support female entrepreneurs. And private investing is one important one, but there are other choices as well. And I talk about all of this in the book. So when you ask, where can you learn? Read my book, Activate Your Money, and go to my website, activateyourmoney.net. Both of those will help you.
Well, I will tell you, I did start reading your book. I apologize, I'm not finished with it, but I will definitely finish it.
I'm so glad. I hope it's helpful to you so far.
Yes, absolutely. So here at Equity Trust, our clients and potential clients can self-direct their investments through a self-directed IRA, for example, through the private equities, as you have mentioned. What suggestions would you give women who would want to start investing into the alternatives and how it would incorporate in such a self-directed IRA?
So first of all, I think the self-directed IRAs is a really interesting concept that I knew nothing about before I started writing this book. So as someone who has been involved in investing, I'm a great example. I mean, I started investing when I was in my late 20s and I'm in my 60s now. So I've been investing for a long time. And I have had financial advisors, and nobody ever told me that there was such a thing as a self-directed IRA until I started writing this book. Nobody ever told me a bunch of things until I started writing this book. It's like, why is that happening? Anyway, within a self-directed IRA, you can do private investing. And I think the thing about private investing and the best way to learn, and I think the way for women to learn about investing writ large, is together. So there are many, many organizations that exist, angel organizations or groups that will teach you how to be an angel investor, how to source and do due diligence on private investments. They'll teach you all of this in cohorts of other women. And I talk about some of those groups in the book, and they are also on the website. So there are many ways to do this together. And I highly recommend learning from other people and other women in particular. It's a great way to learn.
What type of companies do you look for to make sure that they align with your values while you're looking for new investment opportunities?
So that's a really great question because it goes to your values, right? So how do you even know what your values are? I use a tool called the Sustainable Development Goals, and these are 17 goals that were established and ratified by the United Nations. 193 countries signed off on these goals. There are things like no poverty or sustainable cities or clean water, gender equity, social justice. These kinds of things are the Sustainable Development Goals, and there are actually numeric objectives that are associated with these goals that governments around the world, corporations around the world, individuals, foundations are working to achieve. So when you align your investing with the Sustainable Development Goals, you're actually aligned with a global movement to create change. So I picked 5 goals that resonated with me, and I now apply that lens to every single investment decision I make. So for example, one of my lenses is gender. So when I do private investing now, I pretty much only invest in female CEOs because they're so underrepresented. And so I've made a personal choice that when I do investments, either private debt or private equity, I'm looking for either a female CEO or at least an executive team that has some significant women on it. That's one.
I absolutely love that. I was just told the other day, always invest into what you know. And that, of course, as long as you have your values lined up and you're doing what you love and you're passionate about, how can you go wrong, right?
Well, you can. I mean, you can. I have made mistakes. I mean, to be clear, I've made mistakes by not doing enough homework on a company before investing in it. So I've lost money. And that's an expectation in this kind of investing. In fact, the way the whole private equities model or venture capital model is set up is there's an expectation that if you invest in, say, 10 companies, only one will really go. And several of the others will either just stay kind of flat or they will actually go out of business. So there can be a large loss rate, particularly in private equity investing. And so you want to know what you're investing in, and you want to invest in multiple deals. You don't want to just put everything in one deal because it's more likely that that one deal may not give you the return that you're looking for. So you diversify in private investing, just like you diversify in the stock market or you diversify in any other asset class.
Wonderful. Before we wrap it up, can you let us know where we can connect with you at one more time, please?
Sure. So a great place to connect with me is on my website, which is activateyourmoney.net. And you can join that website and become part of my email list. And you can also find a contact link there to connect with me directly.
Well, I do definitely appreciate you joining me today, Janine. I love your book so far. I can't wait to finish reading the rest of it. And we'll definitely be doing this again.
Well, thank you so much. And I really applaud you guys for the work that you're doing as well. So thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you.